Good morning. It is 10:30 a.m. It is Sunday, and that means it is time for Sundae Club, a weekly live stream where every week we live stream some Ruby on Rails, and we are building a Ruby on Rails application together. And first of all, Merry Christmas. It is the 27th of December, so I hope you've all had a lovely Christmas or are, taking the time to spend time with your family or do whatever, and that you're probably not watching this live and are watching this later. But hello to everyone who does choose to watch this live. Say hello in the chat if you would like to. So what are we going to look at this week? We did a bunch of prep work in the last couple of weeks. We did work around setting up active job, which is the background processing for Rails. And we also went and finally had our app speak to the YouTube API. So the app that we are working on at Sundae Club is an app where people can turn up and they can put in their YouTube and eventually, hopefully, their Twitch channel. And we will then go and grab all of that data, and we will then produce like a little mini website with some content that they can administrate for all of the content on their channel. And we're going to go and do all of the stuff around like the content management side of that as well. So take a look back in the channel for all of the past videos if you want to take a look at everything we've done so far. And what we have done with those prep videos of going to get the data from the YouTube API and then setting up active job is we basically today want to go and get a bunch of, when the user signs up and we get their channel ID, we want to go and get all of that content and store it locally in our app so that we don't need to go and keep asking YouTube every time we want to show a list of videos. Even though it was really exciting to see a list of videos from YouTube on the in the app user interface, we want to store those locally so that we can have a faster performance and we can act upon those videos on our app. Within our app and not have to go and get them every time. So that's what we're going to do today. And I want to do a quick little bit of, this isn't follow-up actually, this is kind of more general stuff. I emailed, there is a company in the world called Code Mentor, and they are a service for people. I don't think you'd have to be a learner. Well, I mean, everyone's a learner, but like you don't have to be in the kind of beginning phases of your learning to use Code Mentor. They have people of all different experiences using them, and you can basically buy time with people of different experiences, with different technical abilities, and have a video call with them to ask them questions or to solve your problem or do whatever it is you're trying to do. And that's what they do. But they have this new project, which is called Dev Projects, and they are accepting projects to suggest to learners that they might want to take on so that they're not kind of doing too abstract beginner examples. They want a real app that kind of performs some sort of task, and then it gives them places they can go to ask for guidance. And so I suggested that we use the Sundae Club app for that, and we have had an initial reply from them that they're interested in that. So hopefully I'm going to get that written up this week or so and get that over to them. And then hopefully in the new year, we can have that listed on the Dev Project site. And so what that means is that learners can kind of see the type of app we're building here, where there's like users being signed up and we have to go and get data from a third-party API, store it locally, do stuff with it, do stuff with the user interface, things like that. And also that they will have some resources. They can come and watch these streams if they would like to. They can go to the repo to see the code that we're working on, and they will also have the new discussions area on the GitHub repo to come and ask questions as well. So hopefully that is a handy resource for learners who want to put a project together, and more importantly that it is kind of Rails focused, because loads of the stuff on there at the moment is mobile apps and a lot of JavaScript stuff. And I would love more Rails stuff to be front and center on projects like that, so that it's really something presented to people getting into learning to code for the first time or looking to upskill. I think it would be great if they got more Rails content, really not quite at that very, very beginner level necessarily, although that would be great. I still think Try Ruby could do with a facelift, but it would be great if they also had like projects they could build, even if they had already worked with another programming language or framework. So that's just some admin that will carry on, but hopefully I'll have updates for you on that in the next few weeks. So let's go and just jump straight into some code. Let's do some coding today. Let's go and see where we picked up from last week. So last week you can see on the left hand side over here, we have got our uncommitted changes. So we added in this kind of test job, this background job. After we'd added active job, we added it using the delayed job gem. And you can go back to last week's episode to take a look at that. And we this was our kind of implementation. We actually had this dummy job, for example, where we would go and perform this job later. And it would literally spit out a string, I think, that said, we're going to get the videos for this. That's as far as we got. And then we had the test job. Yep, it just spat out a string. That's all it did. We changed the delay. The default delay for delayed job was a minute, I think. And so that was just us updating it so that we could see the job working in the server a bit more quickly. And then we've got the tests for the test job. I think these were built with the generator, but these are pretty good. I mean, we can just change this test job because this is essentially where we want to start. So where we were looking at is in this controller. So this is within the site setup namespace. We have a details controller, and we added a new attribute last week. Let's go and take a look at our commits from last week. We had this idea of create a new oh yeah. So yeah, so in this details, right, so in this details controller, we now create this new channel. And this channel has a new attribute, and that is YouTube channel ID, right? And it's really confusing because the thing that we thought we were going to be operating on in this controller was going to be the site, and then I confused everything by switching all the models around. But I think that's a really good example when you bump into confusion of like this for a learner of a slightly more mature code base where many developers before you have made decisions and then things have been changed and things might not make 100% sense. So that's just a lovely little taste of of how a previous developer will make things more confusing through no fault of their own. It just kind of happens over time. So that's loopback. That's the sound. I'm hopefully going to be able to just check. If you've been following along, we had some issues with... I think you can still hear the music in the background. I think that's fine. So we had some issues with... the Sound Siphon is the app that I use, no longer working in the background because they haven't updated it for Big Sur or macOS Big Sur. Okay, so this is what we want. We want to put a job here, and so after we've saved this channel here, let's see if I can just bump this font size up a little bit more. Yeah. So after we have saved this channel, we don't need the changes now. We can just work on this. We then want to go and set this job to happen. And that will then, well, we'll go and tell it what to do now. But hopefully that will then be ready because the next step that the user goes to is to set up their user account. Now, we might not want to actually place this here in real life because we don't have a user yet. So this could be a spam bot, or it could be, we don't have any verification that this is a real person or anyone with good intent at this point, or any control over what they do. So we might not want to allow them to just like, create a dummy site and just hammer the queue and just put in whatever they want. So where you place your background jobs is something that you always want to consider. I'm going to put mine here for now, just because it will make it easy to show in the app that that process of the background job. And we had, let me just grab it out from last week. Let me grab the link out on the other screen for a second. We had this Jamboard, which I keep referring to, just because I think it's handy to visualize these things. It's easy if you're working on the code. Let me just pull this over here. So can I somehow put that in? Oh, that's cool. So let's make this a bit bigger. So I now remember doing this with my atrocious mouse-based handwriting. So this is the step that these are the steps the user goes through: 1, 2, 3. And this is where they create their user account. So I said we would add this job here. So this orangey line here is the background job going off. That's this line here. So this is the details controller. And here you can see that's the details controller. This is the background job. This is the job being set, and I popped in waiting 30 seconds as an example, but it's just going to be performed later, and it's going to go and get those videos. And what that would mean is that then they could create their user account, and when they got to looking at their channel, it would already be populated with data stored in the app. So we wouldn't, when we did the demo of that on the previous episode, we actually just at this point went to the YouTube API directly and populated it upon the page loading. That wouldn't be the case. It would have all gone and been loaded locally in our app. Now, like I was just saying, we probably don't want to do that because we don't have any control over the user here. They don't have a user account. We can't restrict them in any way. So we could just easily get spammed. So in reality, what we would potentially do is we could either add we might not do it by background job, for example, or we would add a loading thing here. So the background job gets fired when the user account is created, and this page then waits for that data to get populated. Maybe it loads it from the YouTube API the first time the user gets there, so that first time we're willing to wait for YouTube, but then on that time it then triggers the job to go and save it in the background, so then it doesn't happen again. I'm not saying any of these are good or bad. I'm just saying that where you place your background jobs and how they are triggered by a user is something you really want to give consideration to. If it's something where, a spam bot can come through and overwhelm your queue system, that's not good. But also there are trade-offs in like the great experience you want your user to have. So you could say, there are a bunch of options that you have. So that's all good. We're going to leave this here for now, and we know we can then come back and fix that up later and move it around, because this line here is what's going to trigger the job. So we're going to work on building the job now, but that's what's so great about running things in background jobs is that the work to trigger them is so. This is a one-liner. This is going to do all of the work of saying, hey, go and trigger this job in 30 seconds, do this work. This work might, in this example, it's just spitting out one line of text. But this could be hugely complicated and powerful, but it's still, the trigger for it is now easy to move, and it's easy to, all you're testing for when you're writing your test at this stage is that this got called. Maybe in an end-to-end test, you're checking that it happened, but it's not like you're testing the entire job. That the job itself will have its own tests. So that it's a really powerful way of making things great for the user for performance-wise, because they don't have to wait for that thing to happen. They can just move on with their whatever task they're trying to accomplish. But you can do powerful stuff in the background, and also performance-wise, you can, if it's a really big job, you can throw more computing power in a background job. So these are all really, really useful things to get hold of. So that's why we're spending a little time on them. Okay, so. Let's so that can stay at 15 for now. I don't need to commit that for now. This can stay, but let's just change our job. So we still just do need a job. It just doesn't need to be called test job. So we'll keep the job suffix, and let's call what are we going to do here? We're going to go and do the work that we did on that other stream to go and get the YouTube videos. So we'll need to go and get our API key and stuff again, but that should be fine. Might need to refer to the previous stream because I can't remember all of that. But we want to populate the videos for a channel. Now, do we want to that's all we know. That's all we know for now. So let's just call it let's call it populate channel videos. Let's just call it that. And we don't need much more than that because we don't know what this looks like yet. So we're kind of planning this as we go. We could do more planning, but I'm happy to just kind of feel this one out. We did a planning episode around the YouTube integration, and maybe we'll do another one next week and try to kind of get more details. But let's just kind of feel our way through this one. So let's populate the channel videos because we don't have a model as to how these are going to be done. Let's go and look at what YouTube is giving us, and we'll see the best way to store it. So we can then, let's rename this. We can close these commits. We don't need this. So populate channel videos, because we can always rename. Don't forget, you can always rename stuff. So don't panic if you're like, oh, I'm not sure what to call this. you can just rename stuff later. It's that is sometimes a bit of a hassle with like really important models that you're just using everywhere. That does get painful, but in these early stages and with jobs and things like that, there is work there, but it's always worth doing if it's changes. So that is not what I meant to do. I meant to do rename, and we are going to call this populate channel videos job. Populate channel videos job. Yep, cool. And then there's probably going to be a corresponding spec, which was here. And sorry, I'm doing this as the slowest possible way for no particular reason. But it is Christmas, so bear with me. My brain is probably not functioning at its highest performance level. Not that it ever really is sparking that amazing. Okay, so we've got this pending test. This isn't doing anything at all. And we've got this perform method. Right, so what is this job going to do? So this job is going to... it's probably going to want to... what's it going to want to know to start with? It's going to want to know, it probably wants to know about the channel. So that's what we did last week, where we had a channel and we assigned this YouTube channel ID or whatever it was called. Yeah. So, okay. So it wants to know, so it knows about channel and YouTube channel ID. So it definitely has to know that. It then calls the YouTube API, the one that we looked at for a list of videos. Now I think we had a gem. Yeah, so we had that YT gem, which I think is installed, and that handled, I think that even handled like going and getting multiple patches. So I think we just got all of them back, even if there was lots. I don't know how big that runs, but I don't think we had to do like paginating through them. I think that was all handled by that gem. So it goes and gets that list of videos. So what else does this job do? So this job, does it have to handle the API being down? Does it have to handle the let's just put weird responses. So we're just kind of any non-success response, I guess. And I'll come back to why I'm writing those ones down here in this kind of fleshing out planning in a second. So it calls on the YouTube API. So what does it then do? It then for each of the videos that are returned, we want to store the videos. We just want to store them. I don't think we don't know what that looks like yet, but we just want to store them. And then it wants to, does it want to tell something that it's done? We don't really have anything to tell at the moment. We're just gonna let that go. And so what does it do if there are no videos? We just need it to do nothing if there are no videos. That's fine. We don't care. Do nothing if there are no videos. And then it should just, I think that's it. I think that's all it needs to do. We don't need to overcomplicate this. Now, why did I write these ones down earlier? So one of the things when you're considering background job stuff is that the user, go back to our diagram for a second, the user isn't seeing anything when this background job is running. Like if they have an error in the YouTube API or the YouTube channel ID that they've entered, like it's blank or something, or there's an issue with the account they're creating, the user has a user interface at the moment. They're using the screen so that you're going to click the button and then they're going to see an error message, which is like, hey, something went wrong, and you can control that experience for them. Hey, you gave me some params. I tried to do what I was trying to do. It didn't work. Here's the error message I've got for you, blah, blah, blah. With a background job, we don't have that because they've either left the application altogether and we're still carrying on doing some work, or they're doing something else and we're doing this in the background. So what in that case do we do when there's an error? And with background jobs, the onus is upon you, the developer, and you kind of the application to define what to do. So that can, and literally you get to decide. So generally that will be down to the type of issue that the background job has faced. So if the background job is critical and needs to be completed for the next step in whatever the process is to happen, you are going to want to kind of, fail loudly. So you might raise an error that gets reported to an application monitoring system or something like that. So, someone gets emailed or texted or something happens. You might have something that, you populate something in a database that the user then sees. Hey, there was a problem trying to grab your YouTube thing. Please let us know. But they won't see it until, they'll have to refresh the page or something like that, or you'll need to ping them or something like that. Maybe you send them an email to let them know that something's failed. These are all things that you can do. However, with background jobs, the other big option you have is to retry them. Because there's just a big queue, you can just retry the jobs as and when you need them. So you are really in control of deciding those things. And also you can say, how often are we going to retry this? Are we going to retry it based on what's gone wrong? So you're really looking for resilient background jobs a lot of the time. So if they're trying to connect to a third-party API, like the YouTube API, what happens if YouTube goes down for 2 minutes, or the API, something happens really short term? What happens if YouTube is down for 6 hours? And so when you then spin all of your jobs back up, when the API comes back up, what does that look like? What's the potential time that the user might not have a good experience? Are they all going to come back? Does it matter if all of your jobs run in the correct order, for example? So let's say that we are job number 1 fails, but job number 2 then starts. And then job number 1 gets retried again. So they don't. Does it matter that they're run in sequence or not? So an example for this one could be we go to populate the channel videos, and they don't get populated. So we have the user enter them manually. But we're not going to do that. But this is just an example. So the user then goes and populates 3 videos, but then the background job does work, and so suddenly the videos are there twice because the user entered them, but also we went to get them in the background. Do we care? Again, that's all in your control as to how you control these background jobs. So that's why I'm just popping in things like how do we handle the API being down? How do we handle weird responses? And making sure that the background job knows what to do. So there's a lot there to consider. That's kind of more, maybe we are doing planning in this episode. I hadn't even realized. But those are all things that you kind of, as you work with background jobs more, you will start to think about every time you start to put a job together. You'll be like, okay, what are the impacts of this running? As you begin to work on more popular applications and you start to think about how big the queues can get, you also start to think about if a system goes down and your normal throughput is adjusted of how many jobs you can process, and then your background jobs start to fire, are you going to overwhelm, like you might have more processing power than the third-party API or vice versa, and are you just going to overwhelm the API when you send, your queue restarts and you're like, oh, we'll just restart 1,000 jobs or 1,000,000 jobs or whatever it is, and then this small third-party API provider just collapses because you've overwhelmed them with all of your jobs retrying. You will bump into that at all time with that kind of asynchronous processing. So, all right. So let's start coding some of this stuff up. So this just gave me the arguments here, but I think we really want to be more specific about this. Is this an idiom of active job that you get? I'm assuming this is just from the test. I don't think we really want a splat because we just want to know what we're doing. So we want to give this a channel. So let's open up our test on the right hand side. And so what do we want this to do? So with a channel, So I'm just writing out, I'm trying to think through on the fly what our tests need to do with a valid YouTube channel ID, because maybe this single job might eventually take a channel that has a Twitch ID rather than one. So and maybe the job could know which processor to get passed off to, whether it was a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel or something like that. With you, it should populate the with videos. So that's really what we want it to do. And if we then say, oh, well, we can say, is that validated on the, oh no, it's not validated there. Yeah, let's, because we don't, I keep forgetting to round off edges on this, so let's just add a test in there that says if there isn't a valid YouTube channel, let's just raise. We want to raise an exceptions. So that's an example of saying, okay, well, this is going to happen in a background job. If a channel gets here but doesn't have the attribute that we need, which is the thing that we need to tell the YouTube API, hey, here's the channel to go and get the videos for, you shouldn't have got there. Like that's exceptional. But because I'm just coding this once a week and not really ensuring everything is always neatly wrapped up, we just want to report that so that we can then know if that happens. Because what you could otherwise add a validation to the model to make sure that it was always there or in the database or somewhere else, and then like you could then not explicitly test for this and just assume that if it got there it really was an exception. You would want the system to report it, perhaps. So with a channel with a valid YouTube channel ID, it should populate the channel with videos. Okay. I don't really, so wouldn't normally put all of that in the job itself. We would normally just call something kind of a model whose responsibility it is to just go and do stuff with the YouTube API. But maybe for the ease of the stream, we just put everything in the job. Or do we just... Okay, well, let's just start, shall we? Let's just start. Do we need a real channel? Maybe we should have a real channel for the... And then we can have... so let's set that as nil. So we're just going to populate some stuff for some tests here. Well, no, the default is that it exists. So let's do... let's make this a bit bigger so we can all fit it all on the screen each time. You don't really care about this stuff on here right now. I'm just working on the tests at the moment. And so we've got a channel. Yeah, let's make this a thing that we can then mess with. And then down here, I don't know what makes this invalid, but let's just make it nil for now. And then what we're doing, it's we need to define what we're actually testing. I think, do you get an instance of, my memory's never great with that stuff. I think you just get subject for free in RSpec. There's an instance of the, is subject just an instance of this job already? Let's find out. So this is when it's handy when people are watching along live who have better memories. Because if you're watching this, I would normally be just Googling along. But I'm going to go with, going to try and do it from memory, which is never a good idea. So expected power form. To rate. And maybe we could have a specific exception type. I don't really know about this, but it's just an example of trying to handle an array, or trying to test for array, so we know that something's getting reported if we run the background job. So do we get just test that the stream is still going well? Okay. Yep, still got audio. Okay, great. So oh, and then we're going to do the same thing that we do every week, where I forget that we still haven't got. I'm going to remember in advance. Yes, okay. To be fair to myself, this time it was Christmas week, so I wasn't going to remember to expected. Oh, can't remember what that is. The raise exception. Ugh. Okay. Raise error. So can we do so I'm just popping this one as an example. I'm not sure it's a good really good test. Is this a synonym for that? So is that getting... to there? I'm just checking that it's... channel ID, so that should be nil. Sorry, I'm just so just expect that, and then a line of nothing. Great, so that is nil. So that I should actually have read through to what this is actually trying to do. Does it have to be evaluated? Is it like this? Cool. Without providing a specific error message. Okay, yeah, so let's can't. I can't populate channel without. Again, you might not test for that specific error. You might test for the error type, or we could make a new exception type or something like that. But I'm just going to pop this in here as an example. So basically, what? Let me just check the passes. Yeah, okay. So what we're basically saying there is that in this background job, we want to raise an exception, and by raising an exception, we can then do something with that. So we can report it to an application monitoring tool. We can have it go to Honey Badger or Rollbar or one of these alerting systems that could then tell the developer that something has gone wrong, rather than swallowing that and having the background job move on or retrying. And so raising will perhaps trigger a retry. So maybe we don't want to do that. So I think in delayed job, like raising an exception will have it retry. So we might want to ask it not to, but this is just an example. So we can kind of come back and figure that out later. So it knows about the channel and the YouTube channel ID. So we know at this point that we have a channel and it has to have a YouTube channel ID, otherwise it would have failed. So we then want to call the YouTube API for a list of videos. I'm going to do this in the job for now, just to keep us moving, but I don't think it should be there. Maybe next week we can look at the kind of refactoring of getting it out of the job. And what I mean by that is, okay, so what do I mean by that? I can't remember what it's called, but like I think it's the YT gem or whatever it is. So let's say, I can't remember what it was. It's something like this. Go and get videos. I can't remember. I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but it'll be like channel.YouTube channel ID. It'll be something that we go and get the videos, and we can do that here. Now that's the third party gem that we're calling to go and do that, and then we could say whatever that brings back, the result of it was a collection, I think, of videos. So maybe result is, yeah, we could do result dot each, and then each one could be a YouTube video, and then YouTube video. It could be channel dot video dot build. I'm making this is all example code. I'm just totally making this up. But why am I'm going to show you why, and then we save it, and then we kind of move on with our lives. Now this is all happening in this job. So the job is responsible for that relationship with the gem. It's responsible for the error handling around that, as well as the raising of any exceptions of invalid inputs, about them retrying and stuff like that. But what we could have as an alternative to this is a class that was perhaps it could be the channel populator. It could be names. I mean, you could namespace it. I mean, some people hate the namespacing, but you could namespace it within this, and then that could be given the channel. Well, that would already be namespaced within. Anyway, doesn't really matter. So that within this class or something like that, you could run all of this code. So this then becomes responsible for the relationship with the gem and the YouTube API and all of that stuff. And the job's job is just to handle the background performance of it. So you're not, you're not trying to test two things in one place. You're just saying, right, all this job is going to do is check that all the right things are here. Then it's going to call the populator. And then whatever the populator brings back is some sort of response. Could be true or false, could be, a special object that represents a result, could be whatever it is. We don't really care. We then are able to then just move on and say, okay, well, based on what it brings back, do the right thing with the job. And so all the job cares about is calling this thing. Who cares what the thing does? And then wrapping up the job successfully or not. That this could also be, it could also be something like channel.populate. Maybe it exists on the channel models or something like that. And so these are all options that you can consider when doing your background job. You don't have to do everything in the job. Often background jobs get really overburdened with a lot of responsibilities when all they really care about is just representing that retry or processing logic. So I'm hoping that's useful for people if you've not worked with background jobs too much. And you can really see how much you're responsible for here when you're running them. Whereas with something like a controller action, because you've got that request response cycle from the user, you have that responsibility of getting something back to them and then getting everything ready for the view and then bring it back. It's very obvious that you probably shouldn't go too far kind of off-piste of what's happening between what the user is seeing on the way into the controller and then on the way out, or where they need to be taken and what needs to happen in the meantime. Whereas with a background job, because you don't have those boundaries, a background job might not be constrained by how long it can run or the resources it has. It might be a lot bigger. So you need to define those and then how you're going to test them yourself, which is why I think it's worth spending a little time talking about. Because I just bumped into these when I was first starting with Rails. Tutorials would kind of speak about just thinking about boot camps and tutorials and stuff. They would kind of mention them, but I think it was actually on projects themselves where I first started to get more into the kind of Rails. We looked at delay job and rescue and all of that stuff. The kind of Ruby and Rails side of delay of background jobs. And then like running workers and stuff with Heroku and AWS and all that stuff. All right, so we can just do ours in the channel for now. So I'm gonna deliberately overburden this one, and then we're gonna try and refactor it out later. So that could be an interesting episode itself. Right, in that case, let's actually go and let's go and look at that YT gem documentation, because we've installed the gem already, so we know we've got that. Okay, so I think this is what we did. Let's just make life simple for ourselves. So we're going to move away from the test for a moment. So here, just prefer this syntax following this. So this is then going to be. So this is the channel, YT channel new, and then channel.videos is what we have. And we just looped over them. And we looped over them. So All right, I'm just checking the stream on my other. We don't have anywhere to put them for now, so that's the next thing we want to look at. So let's just spit them out for now to know that our background. We can just do .inspect so we get something out the other end because we don't have anywhere to put them. So this will then handle. Once we have a save in here, that will basically be our kind of happy path running through. To kind of meet the kind of goals of this stream is to have these saved. We might assume that the gem, the YT gem, will raise if there's any kind of problem with that. And so we might be happy with that and saying, okay, well, if it raises, then it will just try and perform the same job again. But going back to that error handling, let's say that a channel has 100 videos and there is an error or the API goes down after the 50th video. So we go channel.videos.each, and for the first 50 in here on line 9 in this block, we then call YouTube video, we save it locally or something. It fails and we raise an error. So the job stops and says, oh, there's an error, but because I've raised, I'm going to retry. And so then, 1 minute, 10 minutes, an hour later, whatever it is, the YouTube API comes back up or whatever problem gets fixed. And then you go to do the job again. Well, you've already saved the first 50 videos potentially. So you might save the first 50 again and then the second 50. So that's another aspect of background jobs that you want to consider. How am I preventing that from happening? What do I care about? With retries, what do I care about with failures, those types of things. That's a really good example of something where you can just really easily do the happy path here and then think, hang on, we've got a really weird error here. There's someone who's got the same 50 videos twice for some reason, and then they've only got half of them once, and it's really strange. And then you realize that your background job has been running, and that could be quite tricky to chase down because you might not remember that you wrote that code, or someone else wrote it and you don't know that the background job is doing it. It's gonna be really tricky to debug. So this is just me running through stuff that you're gonna bump into with background jobs, but I think it's useful. All right, but we're not gonna worry too much about that. We just think that we have this running. Okay, so let's do a little bit of what we did last week and feel excited when we see our job running. So we have, the channel is this, and we have channel. So for some reason, we're going to wait 30 seconds, I think, just so that we can see it running. Test's not running for now, but we think that we're going to start this job when we create the channel in the details controller. And we are then going to run over each of the videos in that channel, which is defined by this gem. And then we're going to spit it out into the server. We're not going to do anything with it for now because we need to have a model to put those on somewhere. So we think that should work. Let's fire up a server. Cool, and go and grab localhost open here. All right, so let's see if we can get the server on the screen at the same time. I'll try and put it above my. We only need it there, don't we? Just squish the browser up real good. Okay, so we don't really need the details. Okay, so this is going to be. Test background job. So we're going to create the site. It will then come to here. Now we need the a YouTube channel ID, but we've got the Sundae Club channel ID somewhere from my other screen. Bear with me. Oh, and in very exciting news, we actually have a vanity URL. So I was wondering out loud last week whether you could put a vanity URL in your channel ID field, so we can now find that out. So let's pop this in here. So if you remember, this is going to create a channel that using the channel model. So it's going to create a record of a channel in our app, and it's going to assign this YouTube channel ID as an attribute on that. This is all happening in the details controller. So we're going to create a new channel here and pass it the site because we're working with the site because it's just confusing. But the form is acting upon the channel, so we're going to pass it a bunch of params. It only accepts one param, which is the YouTube channel ID. So we know that that's then going to get saved. If it's saved successfully, it is then going to trigger this job. It's going to wait 30 seconds and perform the job. And that's the job we've just been working on here, which is the background job. So let's see if that then happens. So we go to the browser. So this is the server on the right. So we want to wait here. Maybe 30 seconds is too long. I'll screw it. So let's submit. Oh, did we have to trigger the job separately? I can't remember whether that's running every 15 seconds automatically or not. Can anyone remember? Are we all about to sit staring at the server for 30 seconds and not remember which one is running? Yeah, I think we might need a separate. I don't know. I wasn't sure whether this was now handled. No, there's active job stuff happening there. Okay, so active job unqueued it. Is this going to happen automatically? I shouldn't have put that 30 seconds wait in there. Is this polling for new jobs? No. Let's... Okay. Let's do a new tab in this one. And bin. Oh, it's changed, isn't it? It's no, this is all in last week's stream. Delayed job. It's like rake run or something. I don't want to get back to the server and find out all this actually. But no, okay. So queuing jobs, params, mailers, running jobs. Here we go. Oh, okay, so we didn't do this stuff. Yeah, I just use like form and stuff like that. Okay. That will just run it. Will that stay open? Okay, I think we have to run these. I thought we didn't do that last week. Start. I genuinely thought that this happened by magic or something that I can't remember. Okay, so well, let's just run the job because now we know that it should happen. I haven't run anything out of the script. Is there something in the something in active job that does it? Setting the back end, starting the back end. Library specific queuing service. Ah, okay. Okay, fine. You still have to do it yourself. So we must have run. Make jobs work, I guess. But does that leave a every time? So now we have a server running. Does this leave a server running, which would be cool? So we should have a job for it to process. Very good, cool. Amazing. We don't have the YouTube API set up. Ah, now there you can see the job rerunning. So our job failed And what was happening is that the automatic retry has kicked in. So we've got a job running. So it starts the job worker, and then it performs the job here, and then it doesn't work, and it performs the job here. By default, I think delayed job will back off how often it retries that job. But because it has raised, it will just keep retrying blindly until whatever the default setting is to stop retrying that. So, but it will try less and less often. And again, that's so it doesn't just keep overwhelming your servers with retries, because they would just start to build up over time. So what we need is to go and get, this is no longer the API key. So I'm just going to pop onto the other screen. Because I killed that API key, which I'm going to do the same thing this week as well, because I didn't want to leave it open having streamed with it, and we don't have any secure credentials or anything set up, so it didn't really matter too much. And it's with it, like, there was nothing paid attached to it or anything, so I don't think it was too dangerous, but there was no reason to leave that open. So we're going to quickly grab a new set of credentials, so bear with me. HE. Okay, so I think grab this one. Cool, and again, this is just a temporary API key, so I think that should work. However, we will need to restart our servers because that's inside a config, so we can exit that. I don't think we have to exit both, but better to be safe than sorry. Now, because this is a job, we actually, if that was the issue with the job, we don't need to make another job. It will actually try and retry that one when the server comes back up. So the server will come back up, and this time it will have the YouTube API key, and this time it has worked. So that's a really good example of job fails, jobs fails. Something changes outside of that job. So we haven't changed the code in the job. We haven't saved any of the data that had available to it, but an API access got fixed, and all of a sudden this has run. So if we look, this is now spitting out details of videos. Amazing. So look at my, my amazing descriptions. So that job is now working, and it retried as soon as the server started. So that is a really good example of the API being down. How did the job handle it? It raised and retried the job with its default back off logic from delayed job. It then got access to the API key, and suddenly it worked. And so if we had 1,000 jobs that had all failed because the API key had become invalid, they would suddenly all want to run, or next time they ran, it would work. Whereas if this code was in line with a user's request and response cycle, the user would have seen an error when that API went down. Whereas now we're able to just handle that stuff in the background. So this is, that was dumb, but a kind of good example of getting that as an example. So that brings us to here. Now we want to have this do something. So we should populate the YouTube channel with videos. Now, what does this actually look like? That seems to actually work. So this with the channel, YouTube ID, we should populate the channels with videos. So we have a channel model. I think this can kind of wrap us up for today because we don't want to be too long because it's Christmas. So we can say, we really need individual models to represent these, don't we? So how are they going to work? We could have a video model because we have the concept of a channel, and a channel presumably has lots of videos. Is that what is in? Yeah, that's what the YT gem calls them. So presumably, if we're doing Twitch as well, we might not want to call them videos because they are streams, but essentially they're just videos. They have like clips and stuff like that. So maybe a channel would be better off having like channel events, like stuff that has happened in that channel, and then they can have different types. Like maybe you have one that is a video and one that is I think YouTube channels now have posts and stuff. So maybe they all just come down as one feed. And then it's up to the type of channel event to decide what it is. And if it's a video, we react to it. Having inserted complexity early previously, I think we're not going to bother. So let's say that, let's just call this one. Is it a channel video? Like, is it, yeah, most of programming is naming things, and I do them live on live streams so that I have a minimal amount of time to give it any thought. So it could be channel video as opposed to just a video that we might be allowing someone to put on their site that isn't part of their YouTube channel. So, you know, we're letting people build little mini websites for their channels. Maybe they're allowed to add videos that aren't part of the channel because they've put them somewhere else, and that's why they won't need a website, because they want to do that. So that's something you would think, well, if we call it video, is there a difference between this and any other video? What can we do with them? I think that's probably a lot of overcomplicating for now, and we're not going to need to worry about that. I think we could maybe just call them videos and maybe associate them with the channel. I think that would get us there. For now. Yeah, okay, let's do that. So let's kind of diverge. So we've still got some tests here that we want to populate, but we want to populate this with the model, so we're fine to kind of wander off from where we are, because this is just spitting something out, and we could just do a commit that preps this by creating a new model. Okay, so let's go and kill our worker for a second, and we can create videos, and a video is going to have I don't know what a video is going to have. What does the video have? Does the YT gem have a little? Amazing. So I'm just looking for what we get from our videos. I don't know, some methods that is. Green below. Okay, so videos, snippet, statistics. Oh, this is cool. So if you remember on the previous stream, there, well, a couple streams ago, we were looking at this idea of like we're able to go and list the videos, but we don't need that OAuth flow. We don't need the owner's permission, the channel owner's permission to go and add them. But we also have this idea of we could do the OAuth flow and go and get permission if we want to act upon those videos. They actually split their docs into things that we get with any auth. So we have an auth that just gives us access to the read-only YouTube API, but then these pink ones, it looks like you just increase the font size a bit. These pink ones look like you can then distinguish between ones that you need. You must authenticate as the video's account's owner, which makes sense. So thumbnail URL feels like we should have, so that would be cool. We don't need the channel ID because we're actually storing the channel, so we can populate all of that. We're representing that association ourselves, sort of. Privacy, rating, updates. Embed HTML. I mean, we really want does all of this come by default here? No, by the looks of it, we're just getting snippet, which is this top one here, I think. Okay, so thumbnail, title, and description. Okay. How do you... Oh, so the YouTube ID. So that's how we know we can put a little player in to show it. Okay, so let's do that. So let's have Well, so we don't know that it's going to be the hell. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, that's weird. The hell? Okay, so we want. Let's call it external ID. Because we might not call these ones just YouTube. We might have Twitch videos in there as well. So let's just we can then have title, which is text. Let's have description. Text. Let's have thumbnail URL. And again, this is all just stuff off the top of my head. If you're watching this, you're like, oh no, you should definitely try this out. Like do different stuff. Like I'm only, just seeing this stuff live on the stream. I'm not saying that this is the best way to do this at all. So really, I encourage people if you're watching this, just kind of see how people approach it, and you like, hopefully you can see how much you get to decide, and like you can just change any of this stuff later. Like if we hate this, we can just swap it out later. And I think that's as you become more experienced, you just get a bit more confident that you can swap stuff out later, or reticent because you know how painful it'll be in certain areas. Okay, so that's all we really need to show a little cool thing. I think so that will get us there. So let's give ourselves a quick once over of that. Do that as well. And let's just run our migration. Cool. So now we have this, and we should then have be able to go and get a corresponding model, or make a corresponding model. And this is going to be video. And then we can make a corresponding spec. We could use generators for this. And so we can have video. We don't really quite know what we want that to do yet, but video. And so we know that it's got some attributes that it can handle. So as soon as we've got this class, we can play around with it as an application record model. And we'll come back to that in a second. And these are the things that we know it can do. Oh, I've totally missed out. We know that it needs a channel ID as well. So let's just roll back that migration real quick. And we can add in Rails. Remember the syntax for this. Oh, so it does both references and belongs to. I think foreign key is default now, isn't it? So we can do this. Oh no, that's not within create table, is it? Can you then just do that, I suppose? Videos, and it is channel. we'll just do t.references. Sorry, I'm just kind of reminding myself of yeah, I think okay. Will that work? T.references course. Okay, to table courses. Well, that should be, the table name should be the same. Does that migration work? Should give us the foreign key and the index, I think, from those docs. Cool. So we can now go into the channel. Sorry, we're just setting up this model so that we can populate all that data we had earlier. So it has many videos, and we can go into video and say belongs to channel. And again, earlier on I was like, oh, what happens if we have videos that aren't? But we can just add that association in now. And we didn't say whether that is allowed to be null or not. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's cancel that 'cause I'm not really sure. Oops. What that's supposed to be doing. So it's just, we can actually check that out in the console real quick. So we can do video new, and that should get us back. No, cool. And then we should be able to do channel.last.videos. Cool. And it will go and get the videos for the channel. Okay, so in here, can we do channel.videos? Yeah, I'm going to just do create bang just to get this working quickly. This is not the kind of, just for all the reasons we spoke about earlier in terms of if we fail halfway through or there's one that doesn't work, you don't want crap in the database, but just I want it to go in the database now, and I want it to be loud if it fails. So I'm not doing any checks on this or anything like that, but let's go and get our migration. So we want all of these populated basically in here. And so then we can, so this one is just ID. I think this is actually the same for these, so we don't need to use this syntax, but here, and I think it was the same. Okay, so what does that mean? It means I think that if we now close, run our worker here, and we have all got our server up. So they're starting the job worker. There shouldn't be any jobs because the last one ran, but we've now updated the job to go through the videos in the channel. I'm an idiot. So we don't want that. So we're creating a variable here called channel on line 7, but we already have channel being passed in. So we don't want that. So we can just call that YouTube channel. And that means that when we have channel on 9, it represents our channel, not the YouTube channel. So sorry about that. Start the worker again. And now, go back to our app. Let's go back to our home page. Saving videos. Correct fixes it. So we're gonna do that. we're going to add in our video ID, which was in my browser a minute ago. Cool. And I can paste in there. And so now if I bring up the worker here, let me just check the stream will fit both these on. So this is the worker. We should see it doing stuff. And then we can check in the console. And over here we should see the user. Okay, so we then click submit. Nothing happens because the worker is polling. But it should at some point show us a job being run. And hopefully if there's no typos or anything, we haven't got any tests over it, but hopefully it will save those videos. I don't know why we made it wait. Because the default is already like, oh wait, is the default like 60 seconds or something? No, we left it at 15 seconds, I think. Great, there we go. That was an incredibly long wait. The job is running. Da-da-da. The job has been processed and 0 failures. So the job is marked, the job has been completed. So what we think we should now have, if we open up a new tab and open up a console, is open up a console again, got to get that fixed, and this will be the test video.count 19 videos. Amazing. So that job is now taking our ID, and while the user goes off and handles all of their signing up for their user account and stuff like that, 19 videos got saved. And so we should then be able to do video. We could do video.last.channel, and it spits out channel.5. Is that the one we just made? Okay, so it's sites 6, but I actually don't know the channel ID, but that's fine. It's probably channel 5. So then we can say video all, because there's only 19 of them, and then we can just go and look at those YouTube IDs. No, we called them external IDs, didn't we? External ID. Great, so those are all our IDs. Now, amazing, that's so cool. Let's go and see how this looks when we actually do this as the user. So we then trigger this off, and we just need to change our user interface. So we're gonna come back to the test. Oops, sorry, I just mashed the mic. We're gonna come back to our test for this. You know, with the level of diligence that we usually approach on this channel, we're gonna come back to those later. In fact, we could look at the test for this and refactor this out separately next week. But let's get to our user interface because it's the most interesting bit. So no, it's channel show. And oh yeah, we did this before. So right, so now we have here we have channel.videos, which is now our own internal associations. We're not going off to YouTube or anything like that. And we can say for each one, pass in that video as a YouTube video. No, it might not be a YouTube video. We can just pass it in as a video because this is now our own collection. This is not from the gem. And for each one of those, we are going to spit out the tailwind stuff that I've already forgotten. So it doesn't matter because we can just do this. And the source of the video is already being stored because that's video.thumbnail URL. Again, that's an attribute now on our model. And we can say that is going to be, just going to do this really quickly. I know there's tailwind stuff that would do it, but this is what I did last time and it's fine. So let's just do a max width of like 250 pixels. And then underneath it, I'm just going to put a line break in. Underneath it, we can then put in just steal this. It doesn't need to be a heading though. Well, I suppose it can be, it doesn't matter. And we can spit out the video title. And then below it, we can just put p tag. And this can have the video description. Now, what we also want to do is just handle if there aren't any videos in there, we want to do something else. So we're going to grab this heading thing here anyway, and we're going to say we are there are no videos for this channel yet. Okay, now why am I adding that in? So a couple of things. We want the user to see a nicer experience if there are no videos yet. So we would probably give them a prompt to go and do something and make a video or enter the API key or whatever it is. So you always want to kind of provide that experience for the user. But in this example, what we want to do is show the impact of the background job on the user. So we're going to go and create our user account. We're going to hopefully do that quickly before the background job has run. So we should get to this page and see this, and then we can refresh it after a little while, and then we would see the videos themselves. There's bound to be typos and stuff in here, but let's see if we can make that happen. So we're going to leave our server running. Let's move it just up here. I know that's probably hard to see if you've got a smaller screen, but our work is running up here. And let's bring our browser up on the other side. So let's go back to our home page. Remember, all of this is happening before the user has had to create an account. So we're not making them do that, but we can't view the channel. Now, when we get to the end of that user process, where do we go? Do we actually go to that channel? No, we take them to the home page. Can we do... This is very hacky. Sorry, I just want them to get to the channels path. I just want to go to that channel that we've just made. Channel path, not channels path. So we're making a channel on that details step. So we create a site on the first step. We create a channel on the second step, but a site can have many channels. And then we're creating a user on the third step. And at the end of that third step, I want to take them to the channel that has just been created. Literally so that we can just see the UI that we've just been working on, which will spit the videos out. So let's bring up our worker on the right-hand side, which is waiting to process jobs. And let's bring up our browser on the left-hand side and go to our home page. So let's say new site is the name of the site. We're going to create the site. We're going to import our video. Right, so this is gonna create the channel. It's going to trigger that background job. And what we're going to try and do is generate a user account and be taken to that the channel while it's still empty. So let's see if we can do that. So we're going to do test@example.com and enter a password. I'm going to sign up. Undefined method, site of channels. Okay, that's super annoying. One typo. I knew that would happen. So our background job, I don't actually know if it's run yet. Channels. And this is still going to error because it was going to try and make the same one twice. Email has already been taken. Now I'll say I'm already logged in, I think. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it's called. Oh no, and then our background job ran anyway. Oh no, okay, well we can try and give that another run. Did you mean channels? Change site.channels.first. Oh my god, I didn't do any. Okay, that was a disaster of some hacky code. Okay, let's run the. I was trying to do that too quickly. Okay, so let's give that another run. Okay, so new site, create the site, pop the ID in there. That's going to create the background job. Here, we're going to just create a dummy email account. And we want it to redirect us to the... Oh, I did the wrong... Oh my God. It's just not happening at all, is it? Well, we can do another one. Yeah, because there's the job just triggering off there again. Okay, so this one will work. It's always when you think, oh, I'll just do this quickly to demo it. Like if I'd just done the work properly, we could have had the fucking thing tested for him now. So sorry for swearing. Okay, so let's pop that ID in here. Just enter a random email address. So the job has been created in the background, and hopefully this will take us to the channel. And there are no videos for this channel yet. Right now, if I keep refreshing this, that still no videos for the channel, still no videos for the channel. And then over here on the right hand side, we should see the delayed job trigger. And that's now going to take ages. When I was trying to create the user account, it wasn't happening. So we made the user can go and start doing stuff. We don't really care what's happening. But at some point, hopefully this will populate the videos for this channel, and that view code that we added will trigger, and we'll see a bunch of... So there's our job running. Boom. We have a load of videos. Very exciting. And we have the name of the video and the thumbnail and things like that. And this is now being pulled. So in a previous stream, we pulled this from the API. This is now being pulled from our database. So these are local versions of the API data. Now, why is that important? So many reasons. So we no longer have this dependency on the external API for page load. So this page is now instant because it's not having to go if they're down or anything like that. We can also start to change this data ourselves. So let's open up let's go back to our console and say video.last maybe. So which one is this? Ruby on Rails coding. Rails new for the first time. So to be this one down here. So let's say video.last.update, and we're going to say the title is called updated title. So we can do that. We can then refresh this page, and the title has been changed here. Now we haven't changed that on YouTube. We've only changed it in our app. So what that means is we could then keep a set of like overrides or something that we wanted to change on our side, because if we're allowing users to build like a website for their videos, they might want to change the titles of them or descriptions or things like that. And we could always say, okay, well, let's go and get the YouTube data again and overwrite it and bring it all back. But in the meantime, they could add bigger descriptions or blog posts about the video, whatever it is. But now that we're able to import it immediately using that background job, that's really powerful. And what we could maybe do is we could have a background job that ran every 15 minutes or something and went to get new videos for each channel, or something like that, because it now already knows how to do that import. So that brings us kind of an hour and a half, which I think really gets us to the crux of where we wanted to get to, of bringing these videos in, having a place to store them and putting in here via the API, which is amazing to see. Like, I was so excited when we got them in via the API in the first place, but now we have like, again, there's no styling on here. It looks rough, but you can kind of get the idea. There's like, we can edit our channel, which is gibberish because it doesn't have any field titles or anything, but that all works. We can go get the videos. We could then use that same logic. We could have an edit action, which would show us how a form to edit these videos, an update action, which would allow us to update them. There could be a button that just said, re-import from YouTube or something like that. And then each of these could immediately have a show view. In fact, that's so exciting. Maybe I want to do that now. I am quite excited by that. No, because we would. Okay, let's do that next week. Let's do the show view next week, because that's kind of exciting. So we would then we could click through to each individual video and have a page for it, and you could like define the slug that it had, because it could be different from the one on YouTube. You could add more information that YouTube won't let you add, links to different stuff, or whatever it was. and suddenly you've got a show view around your videos, and then you could link through to the next one, the previous one, and or do something like that. Or maybe we allow categories and collections and stuff. Amazing. So once you've got this kind of raw building blocks coming in, you're kind of set. So let's do a quick roundup with all of that stuff of what we covered. So what we covered was over the last 3 streams, we looked at grabbing the YouTube API data. We then put in active job and created and used delay job as our adapter, and then got all that stuff happening. This week we have then gone to kind of looked at some of the stuff around background jobs and what you need to bear in mind with them. We've created a model called video, which is where we're going to store our video information coming back from our video providers, Twitch or YouTube or something like that. We also made the background job to do the import. We talked about what that job actually does. So at the moment it's going to do the whole import itself, but it might just call something else, some other class to do the import as well, and kind of what the division of responsibilities can be there and what you're in charge of. We looked at failures and how those get fixed and set up a new API key to get that resolved. And then saw it working, because then we were able to have a user sign up, create a site model, in the detail step create a channels model, and then go through and create a user. And while that was happening, the background job had already been created. We inserted this fake 30-second delay, so we were able to see an empty channel by going to look at it, and then we were able to see the job run in the console by that worker happening in the background. That populated the videos, and then when we reloaded the channel page, all of the videos were there available for us to go and see. So we now have a local store of those, which we're in control of. So exactly what we wanted to achieve. What we really need to do is look at the refactoring of the job, finishing the tests, adding a show view for the videos. So that feels like a whole episode for next week. I am off work this week, so I'm actually hoping to, I'm not going to say I promise anything, because we've all been burned before with me promising to do things midweek and it's not happened, but I am off work. So I'm hoping to spend some time in Sketch. We looked at using Figma in a previous homework edition, which is some of the streams that don't happen on a Sunday. Figma didn't really pan out because of their restrictions around using the team plan. So I think we're going to stick to using Sketch and get our Sketch library up and running, and then kind of get a user interface design session working for the app. And then it could look a bit more coherent rather than just how it looks on the screen at the moment. So thank you so much to everyone who has reached out in comments or watched at all in any way, or just subscribed or anything like that. I hope you've all had a great Christmas, like I said, and I will see you next Sunday, and I think it's going to be next Sunday. Next Sunday, I think, is my birthday, but I think we can do a stream then because I'm out in the afternoon. So I will see you next week. Have a lovely week.